The top 5 best trade ideas for trade deadline that would make the second half of this season absolutely insane. Now, before I get started, I know the possibility of all these trades going down is extremely unlikely. Even just having one of these trades happening is almost impossible. Or is it? I mean, DeMarcus Cousins just got traded to play in New Orleans with Anthony Davis to form one of the best frontcourt duos that we've seen in a very long time. I'll go as far to say that I don't think we've seen a frontcourt duo this good since Tim Duncan and David Robinson, and that's saying something. And they haven't even played a game yet, but you just know that these guys are going to be awesome. Now, the 5 trades that I'll propose in this video are star players, or at least players that we classify as 5 of the better players in the league. Players like Carmelo Anthony, Brook Lopez, Jimmy Butler, Paul George. I'm pretty sure that all the trades I'll propose have a player that is now an all-star, or was an all-star at one point in their career. There is one trade in this video that isn't about a superstar player, but you'll see why I have it in the video. So this should be pretty exciting. Obviously, I could talk about where PJ Tucker might end up, but let's be honest. Who really wants a trade talk video about PJ Tucker? So here are just 5 of the best trade deadline deals that would make the second half of the 2017 season insane. These are just ideas. I don't think that these trades will actually happen, but it would make the second half of the season insane. Keep in mind that these are in no order, and if you enjoy these types of videos, it would be awesome if you guys could subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. And if we could aim for 3,000 likes, that would be awesome as well. Also, if I sound really weird in this video, I do have a cold, so I apologize for that. Anyway, number 5. The New York Knicks trade Carmelo Anthony to the Celtics for 4 players. Now, I don't think this deal will actually happen, but it could, and it would be insane if Carmelo Anthony was dealt to the Celtics. The deal works because the Knicks are looking to move Anthony, but in saying that, it's really complicated, obviously, because Carmelo has a no-trade clause, which means he can veto any trade that sends him out of New York City. Apparently, the only teams he'd be willing to go to if he was traded would be LA and Cleveland. That's because he wants to play with his friends LeBron James and Chris Paul, and he has been pretty vocal about his desire to stay in New York. But now, if somehow Melo were to compete for a championship and he actually wanted to end up playing in Boston, this trade gives the Knicks 3 young players in Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and even Jay Crowder to pair up with Kristaps Porzingis, who is the future of the New York Knicks franchise. That means the Celtics wouldn't even have to give up a draft pick, and Boston sits at the 2 seed in the East right now, just 3 games behind Cleveland. There is a window to gain around Cleveland with Kevin Love looking to be out for pretty much the rest of the regular season, and this would give Melo a legit chance to be the number 1 or 2 option to pair up with Isaiah Thomas, who has been filling the role nicely for Boston. Ultimately, I don't think this trade will happen, but the Celtics have a pretty good chance to make the NBA Finals if something happens to Cleveland, and it should give Anthony a reason to ponder a move to Boston. My thinking though is that this won't happen, and I give the trade possibility a 4 out of 10. Number 4. The Brooklyn Nets trade Brook Lopez to the Pacers for a first round pick. According to NBA.com's Peter Vesky, the Indiana Pacers are trying to acquire Brook Lopez. What they're pretty much trying to do is pair another all-star type player with Paul George. The only problem is, I don't know if Paul George is really all that happy in Indiana at the moment. I mean, obviously he's already stated that he wants to compete for a championship, and if the Pacers aren't giving him the players to compete for a championship, then he's obviously not going to re-sign back with them. That is why they're trying to trade for Brook Lopez. If the Pacers are trying to get Paul George some help, this would be a move in the right direction. The thing is, I don't think they have enough to offer the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets have been saying that they'd like 2 first-round picks for Brook Lopez, but no team is biting on that offer. And now, after they just traded Bogdanovic to the Wizards for a first-round pick, they might end up just doing the same for Brook Lopez, considering it's their only hope of a decent rebuild. The Pacers could offer Al Jefferson, Rodney Stuckey, and a 2017 first-round draft pick. Indiana just can't offer a first-round pick because they need to find the right contracts to match Brook Lopez's $20 million contract, which in another way in itself also draws a lot of questions for the Pacers. Another question is, would Miles Turner and Brook Lopez work well together? Who would play at the power forward position? To be clear, nothing is imminent at this point, and the Pacers are interested in Lopez according to Vesky, but it doesn't mean the Nets are. And the Nets could probably find a better offer out there. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I think this trade would be pretty cool. Because if they can pair Brook Lopez with Paul George, it would be interesting. But I mean, I just don't see them winning a championship anyway. So my thinking is that this trade won't happen, and I give the trade possibility a 3 out of 10. Number 3. The New York Knicks trade Derrick Rose to the Timberwolves for Ricky Rubio. So the Minnesota Timberwolves have an obvious connection that creates the potential for a trade to be made. Tom Thibodeau coached Derrick Rose for 5 seasons in Chicago, and since become the head coach and president of basketball operations for the Timberwolves. Rose and Tibbs have a very strong relationship, although people say that he worked Derrick Rose too hard in Chicago, which is why he ended up with all those horrible knee injuries, but I just don't think that matters at this point. Rose wants out of New York, and he likes Tom Thibodeau, and New York has an interest in a past first point guard, and they have already stated that they want Ricky Rubio. This seems like a decent fit. The Minnesota Timberwolves get Derrick Rose and a possible rookie from New York, and the New York Knicks get Ricky Rubio and Brandon Rush. It would be tough to justify playing a non-shooter and non-facilitator in Derrick Rose alongside a ball-dominant scorer in Andrew Wiggins. However, the Timberwolves would benefit from adding a finisher, and if anyone could get Rose to facilitate just even a little bit more, it would be Tom Thibodeau, who has proven capable of getting Rose to facilitate in the past. This would be a risky move, but it would be hard to blame Thibodeau for taking a 1-year gamble on the point guard he spent 5 years building around. My thinking is that this trade might actually happen though, and I give the trade possibility a 6 out of 10. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Number 2. The Chicago Bulls trade Jimmy Butler to the Celtics for 2 players and a future first-round pick. After the news broke out late Sunday night that the Sacramento Kings center DeMarcus Cousins was headed to New Orleans to join Anthony Davis in what would be the NBA's most star-studded frontcourt in a very long time, one player leapfrogged into trade talks, once again heading into the last 24 hours of the NBA trade deadline. Jimmy Butler. Butler has spent his first 5.5 seasons in Chicago with the Chicago Bulls, and he's had his name tossed around in pretty much the last couple of seasons, particularly with the Boston Celtics for quite some time. But now, it's time to actually see if he's going anywhere. Looking at a potential Celtics-Bulls trade from both perspectives, a trade would actually make sense. Of course, when you trade a superstar like Jimmy Butler, you're not going to get back what he's worth, but in the future, it could make more sense for Chicago. The Celtics have been stingy with their first-round picks, but it's in their arsenal, and while I expect them to make a splash with a trade eventually, Danny Ainge isn't interested at this point. I mean, it's clear that he wants to keep his picks because why wouldn't he have traded for DeMarcus Cousins if all he had to do was give up 1 first-round pick? Like, I'm still shocked about that. But personally, I think Jimmy Butler is the guy. He plays defense, he's a team player, he's on contract, and he has improved into one of the best offensive players in the league. You need to trade for Jimmy Butler, Danny Ainge. The Celtics have a long-term view of their situation and have proved that they are not in any rush to make a deal because they have assets. In saying that, in the new CBA, draft picks are turning into incredibly valuable assets. A swap for the Brooklyn Nets pick in this year's draft, which is currently the number 1 overall pick, to help the Bulls rebuild, which is something that they should have done 6 months ago rather than signing Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. If the Celtics can throw in a young player with high upside like Jaylen Brown and the Celtics future first round pick or the Nets future first round pick, both teams could walk away victorious. The Celtics get Jimmy Butler and the Chicago Bulls can build around Jaylen Brown and a future first overall pick. It seems like a pretty solid deal, but obviously Danny Ainge just doesn't seem keen, and it'll be interesting to see if he makes a move. I think he better make a move because I don't think they'll win a championship without trading for a guy like Jimmy Butler. My thinking is that this trade might actually happen. Watch out in the next 24 hours. I give this trade possibility a 6 out of 10. Number 1. The Pacers trade Paul George, either to the Los Angeles Lakers or to the Boston Celtics. Although Magic Johnson is still getting settled into his new job with the Los Angeles Lakers as president of basketball operations, he's already stated that he's going to put in a lot of effort to make some trades before the deadline is over. A recent report that only came out a few hours ago said that the Lakers are in the process of trying to land Paul George from Indiana. Paul George also came out and stated that he'd love to sign with Los Angeles when he becomes a free agent in 2018. What makes this deal extremely interesting is that the two guys on the phone talking about the trade is Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Now, I don't know about you, but if any two guys could talk normal to each other, Magic and Bird, this is what makes it interesting in my opinion. These guys are great friends. They're even better than great friends. And I know it's just trade talk, but this could turn interesting. Larry Bird is the GM of the Pacers, and Magic Johnson is the GM of the Lakers. It's interesting just to think about that for a second. Now, the thing is, it's already been stated that it seems more likely that the Lakers will wait for George to hit free agency, which makes more sense because that means they'll keep their young core with a chance to add Paul George in the future. And yeah, that makes more sense. But if they can acquire Paul George, it will be interesting. While Magic Johnson has already made a trade by dealing away Lou Williams for Corey Brewer and a first round pick, adding a superstar like Paul George would just justify his presence in the front office. My thinking is that this trade might happen, and I give the possibility of 5 out of 10, so 50%, but I don't know, I'm slowly thinking that it won't happen. It's literally just the fact that it's Bird and Magic Johnson talking about the trade, which makes it interesting. But lastly, I could see a trade happening with Paul George to the Celtics as well. I mean, it would be similar assets to what they'd be giving up to gain Jimmy Butler, but it will be an interesting 24 hours coming up. Trade deadline is definitely my favorite time of the year. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one. That would be absolutely amazing. And I've got plenty of videos coming up that you don't want to miss out on. Also, if a trade happens, follow my Twitter because I'll be tweeting about all the trades out as they happen. You can follow me at NickSmith71218 or click the link in the description to take you to my Twitter, and I'll talk about all the trades on there. Thanks for all the support that you guys show on every video, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Peace!